Thanks, Stephen, and it's a pleasure, and thank you for inviting me to join. I'll try to finish ahead of time and turn over to my colleague Alex Vitanka, who always talks longer than I do. So um, I did have an opportunity to look at Bruce's chapter, and as you and I discussed, Stephen, I'll begin with a disclaimer, which is that I don't necessarily agree with everything that Bruce wrote. And so I'll give my own thoughts and not necessarily reflect on what Bruce's views are. But let me just say that from my perspective, the Saudi decision to intervene in the Yemen civil war in 2015 was based entirely on their concerns about the threat of Iranian expansion and the establishment of an Iranian foothold in Yemen, based on the Houthi move into Sana'a and their coup d'état against the Hadi government. And I think that in a sense, it reflected a longstanding concern that the Saudis had of seeing themselves as being encircled by pro-Iranian forces going, if you go from Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon, and then down the Red Sea, Hamas in Gaza, Sudan for a period of time, Somalia for a period of time. And then so Yemen would complete the encirclement, and that was, of course, from a Saudi strategic perspective, an enduring and existential threat. The Houthis played up on those fears in 2014. Their announcement that they're opening regular air links between Tehran and Sana'a, as well as threatening statements that the Houthi leadership was making about the border between Saudi Arabia and Yemen, exacerbated Saudi concerns. But the fact of the matter is that there was evidence that Iran was expanding its footprint in Yemen, going all the way back to 2012, long before the advent of the circumstances that led to the civil war. The Jihan 1, the Iranian dhow that was seized in late 2012 by the U.S. Navy that was carrying tons of weapons for the Houthis. The earlier seizure of a ship that was bringing EFP milling equipment to Yemen for delivery to the Houthis, as well as the presence of IRGC personnel in Yemen, again, long before there was a conflict, long before this whole situation developed. So these were the bases for Saudi concerns. Nevertheless, I mean, the reality is that the Saudis maintained a dialogue with the Houthis all through this period. When I was still in Sana'a, I had a number of conversations with the Saudi ambassador, who was engaged in contact with the Houthis. They were trying to work out that dialogue, which has gone on really for a decade or longer, has waxed and waned over the years, but it's always been a factor. And my view has always been that in the long term, Houthi interests in their position really favored them establishing a closer relationship with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is always going to be their neighbor. Iran is always going to be a long way away. But the reality is that the Houthi movement is not monolithic. There are forces within the Houthi movement that would favor a closer relationship with Saudi Arabia, but there are some that are very deeply entrenched in a pro-Iranian mindset. And from a Saudi perspective, they've also been very clear that they don't object to seeing the Houthis play a role in Yemeni affairs. I mean, this has been something that they've been very clear on, and in public have stated that they don't object. This is really a question of how to work it out. So basically, what I would say is that there are three Saudi red lines. They have to have a secure border. They have to have an agreement that there won't be IRGC or Hezbollah presence, and there will be a friendly government in Sana'a. The Saudis have been looking for an end to the conflict based on those three red lines, at least since 2016, and thought that they had a deal in 2016 that fell apart in Kuwait. So from my perspective, and I'll stop here, this will be my last point, the question is more whether Iran sees advantage in helping end the conflict or keeping it going in order to keep pressure on Saudi Arabia and perhaps to drive a wedge between the Saudis and the United States. And let me stop there.